Hello there, everybody. My name is Ashley Hunt. I'm the Senior Project Management Instructor at Stormwind Studios, and I wanted to just put out a short blog about the coronavirus. I mean, obviously, you're hearing about this all over the news, all around the world. There are new cases every single second. Well, what does that do to our projects? And so I've been getting a lot of emails and having some conversations with some of my students, and they're like, oh, what can we do here other than, what we're already doing? And a lot of my advice is pretty obvious, but at the same time, it's really trying to refocus our efforts to do what we can. Try not to panic. I mean, really, out of the gate, it's very difficult in a lot of cases not to get overly panicked. The news and what we're hearing around the world makes it a very scary situation, and I totally understand. They just closed 5 elementary schools in my location, and so I get it. I totally do. Our job, though, is to do those risk assessments and try and figure out, what do we do? Where are our vendors? Are we going to have delays in shipping? Where are my customers? Where are my coworkers? And so we need to plan and assess and try and make the best decisions with the information that we currently have. So definitely educate yourselves. Go out to the CDC website. I'm going to have a link at the end of this and read from that site. Don't necessarily take into consideration a lot of what the news reports are saying, because it can force panic, and we don't want that. Try not to take any unnecessary business trips. That goes without saying. Your customers are going to understand. But what can we do right now? Well, first things we have to take a look at is where our contingencies lie. What if our shipping of our materials and equipment is delayed? What does that do to our projects? And also try and figure out what critical tasks you can do from home and what absolutely have to be done on site, and see if you can't adjust your schedule a little bit to accommodate critical tasks now, before we're all maybe having to work from home for a month or two until this thing blows over, hopefully. Back up everything to the cloud, everything, so that you and your team can all access your work as needed. And I'm sure you guys are doing that anyway. But just like a computer virus that impacts all of our machinery and equipment, this is a human virus, and we want to make sure that we can still function as businesses and protect our economy. Create a risk register for all possible scenarios and brainstorm with your team. Do a dry run. I mean, we sit around and talk about risk and update our risk registers for, well, what happens if we go behind schedule? What happens if we go over budget? What happens if our organization has to close its doors and we all have to work from home? What is the contingency? So I highly recommend having like a war room session or brown bag session with your team, maybe other stakeholders, your sponsor, and so on, and try and figure out what if. What's the probability of this occurring? And if so, what's the impact? And let's try and generate some good responses to help make sure that we're at least trying to stay in front of a very bad situation. Discuss management reserves. Maybe you have contingency reserves, and now we need to talk to management and see, how much are you willing to set aside in case XYZ occurs? And feel free to share your risk register. Maybe you're doing expected monetary value on some of the risks. Here's the price tag if it were to occur at its current assessed probability. Don't just focus on the schedule, though. I realize, a lot of us are worried about the schedule, and obviously that's a highly important aspect of this. But our focus right now should be on risk management across all constraints. Do practice drills for working remotely. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us are used to working from home, maybe 2 days a week. Some people aren't. They're used to going into an office, and they might not necessarily know what systems, how to VPN in. Some of these things, we just want to make sure that everybody's all on the same page, can access all the information that they need, and just run some drills. Keep in close communication with your sponsors, your PMO, your customers, and keep them informed. They've got a lot going on. They're worried about the business, and they're pulling people back from business trips and so on. So our individual projects might not be front and center. So it's going to be our job to update our risk reports and communicate out to our sponsors, our PMOs, our customers. Let's just stay in touch. Let's just make sure that everybody's all on the same page and we have a direction to go. Of course, we always have to practice agility. Things can shift, things can pivot, and we need to stay on top of that. So finally, where can you go for information? Definitely go out to the CDC site. I find it's updated regularly, minute by minute by minute. And it's really your best source of information on your location, any new cases that have come out, and so on. And finally, stay safe out there. It's definitely one of these things that people are worried about, and I completely get it. For my students and everybody, feel free to reach out to me via email at ashley.hunt@stormwindlive.com if you have any questions. If you want to brainstorm with me, I'm here. I'm available for you. So hopefully some of this information helped refocus. It's not anything you don't know already, but maybe some conversations to have with your team today.